we get into this like rickety Jeep, the kind of thing where the whole car makes noise as it's driving. He's driving without really paying attention to the road too much, and he's just telling me about where to find the best prostitutes across all of South America with rating systems. The best are over here, lower rating over here. These are okay, but cheap. Like, and the whole time I'm like, please don't take me to a whore.
Hey y'all, and welcome to Culture Cult, where we are one podcast with 197 countries to explore stories and history from. I'm your host, Marie, and this week we are doing travel stories. So that's when you send in your best travel stories to be read aloud, and we hear from guests on their favorite travel stories also. So send in your favorite travel stories to our email, culturecultshow@gmail.com. And remember to comment, rate, and subscribe to the show. Cheers and enjoy. Hey y'all, welcome back to the show for a very, very special travel story episode. I don't know if I can contain my excitement. I've been following these guys for about a year now. We have huge travelers and travel podcasters, Neil Ines and Andres Bartos from Passport Podcast coming on today to tell some of their best travel stories. And if you're not listening to Passport Podcast, you for sure will be after this episode. So with that said, welcome on Neil and Andres.
Hey,
thank you.
He's like, hey.
I feel a little bit nervous.
Me too.
I know, me too. I hate starting episodes, not gonna lie. It's like the worst part for me. But I have been listening to y'all. I found y'all's podcast about last year, and I was like, oh my gosh, y'all are killing it. It's really, really good stuff. So y'all are in Barcelona right now, right? Why Barcelona? I know y'all are world travelers. Y'all been to so many places. Like, how did y'all meet and then decide to start this podcast in Barcelona?
Oof,
How far do we go back?
Yeah. Well, I moved here 11 years ago, close to 11 years ago.
Okay.
For the reason that many people stop being travelers, because I met a girl, and yeah, I moved here in 2010, 11.
Wow.
And
Now there's two babies.
yeah.
Yeah.
Two Barcelona babies.
I'm stuck.
Mm-hmm.
You're stuck.
That's not the I'm not moving and quite content.
There you go.
There you go.
And Andres, were you born there or?
No. I was born in Bolivia. I'm a weird mutt. So my dad's side of the family is from Hungary. My mom's side of the family is from El Salvador. And I was born in La Paz, Bolivia.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's always that thing where it's when they ask you where are you from, you're a little bit like
Strap in.
Yeah, right.
how
Like here comes a
how do I
long
tell
answer.
this? Yeah, what's the shortest form I can give these people?
Yeah.
In Barcelona, I've been here now 22 years. I got here when I was 19. I came here to study. And yeah, I've got to experience, I feel like I've been in 5 different Barcelonas in that time.
Really?
Like even in the time you've been here, it's changed.
Too.
Yeah.
So
It's one
I've
of
been
those
to
cities.
Barcelona twice. And obviously we all know about Park Güell and La Sagrada Familia and that it's a fun little party town. But y'all's perspective, what is underrated about Barcelona that people aren't realizing, or maybe something special to you that the city offers?
Oof.
That's a good question.
That's a good question. I might go for the curveball and say the areas immediately surrounding the city are rural, beautiful, much less touristy, and more friendly than Barcelona.
I mean that thing,
outsiders.
Yeah, there's that power, that kind of echo that happens from Barcelona because it's such a city that has this big name. The places that are right on the periphery don't really get noticed, but there's a bunch of towns that go from the sea all the way into the hillsides that are on the edge, and they're incredible. Like there's amazing places to eat, incredible nature, cool art things that are happening, music, even festivals that are on the outskirts.
Yeah, but you got this big like older brother in the middle just going. Blah!
Yeah.
That
sounds so similar to Los Angeles. Like, I love LA, but I also love LA because what's around LA, we have desert, mountain, like amazing beach towns. And yeah, like some people when they come to LA, I'm always like, do you have a car to leave LA to see the outside? I love LA, but I think LA relates with that. And when I went to Barcelona, I did something. I'm very curious if y'all have done it. Have y'all ever snuck into the Olympian pool that's like up top, on top of the city? It's on the mountains.
You don't have to now.
You don't.
Yeah, and there's
it's open.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's open.
I didn't get the chance to be a rebel. That's because I'm living in another Barcelona now.
Yeah.
There's actually really cool, the diving pool,
Mm-hmm.
like the very famous diving pool from the 19 Olympics is now a bar called Salts. It's like real simple kind of tapas bar, cheap beers, but the pool is open in the summer and you can go diving.
So cool. Okay. It was like very illegal when I did it. I didn't know there's a bar. So when I went, there was a ladder across the wall and you had to climb up the ladder, go up the wall. This is a whole nother story, but I got in a predicament with like these 7 boys and they were harassing me. And my cousin was a badass and she like kicked them out of the entire place, but they kicked over the ladder. So we had to jump from the top of the wall. It was actually fine. We didn't break anything, but there was no access besides that ladder at the Olympian pool. And now there's a bar. So now my story seems very dramatic that people can get tapas there.
Yeah, you got to experience something quite cool. Yeah, there was a period of time early on when I was here when they were doing parties there. There were 2 or 3 little kind of entrance points where you could sneak in. And then at the tip top of Paraguay, you would find this kind of party.
Oh, that's so fun. That's like the coolest spot. It's so artistic and it looks like you're in a Dr. Seuss world and to have a party there, that's incredible. So y'all been in Barcelona for a while. Y'all are filmmakers. So how does that lead y'all to meeting and then have a podcast together?
Well, one of us is still a filmmaker.
Okay.
I've been lured almost exclusively into the world of podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
But, we both studied film and media, and we met here to make a show to make product for an app called Detour, which was like storytelling guided by GPS. And I had met Andres about 3 weeks before we started.
Basically, they put us on. We had a blind date.
Oh.
Yeah, we got set up by the actress Jennifer Beals' brother.
Gregory.
Okay.
Photographer.
Yeah, I had met him once, and he had never met Andres.
No.
And he set us up to have a beer together, and then fucked off and left us.
Yeah, had 1 beer left, and then we proceeded to hang out until the bar closed, basically.
Yeah, we talked about movies for about 5.5 hours.
Oh,
movies
amazing.
and podcasts.
That's amazing. It was like,
and so when this teacher job fell in my lap, I just on a whim just hired Andres.
Yeah,
we did it together.
That's beautiful. I love when tiny little things in life just make a whole big of a difference. Like that person like made a big difference in your life, just that beer, and then now you're partners in everything. That's so crazy.
Yeah, it properly changed. It changed my whole career.
Mm-hmm. You're gonna make me tear up. Yeah, it's true. I mean, what's always been funny is this kind of bizarre chemistry happened almost immediately, and we have such different backgrounds, such different kind of life experiences, but yet, I don't know, some taste thing built in. And being strangers in a city that's not really our own is a big deal, and I think it's true of a lot of people in Barcelona. Yeah, Barcelona is one of those places. It's probably like LA in that sense, where people kind of migrate there. They have an idea of the city in their mind, and then some people just come here for a short amount of time and then end up staying for years.
Yeah. So y'all met through Detour, the app, and then, but like, what kind of led y'all with Passport Podcast? I know it kind of came out in 2020. Like, is it a 2020 story? What happened where you're like, we got to make this podcast?
Everything links together, actually, because Detour feeds directly into Passport, but then feeds directly into Circa. Mm-hmm. They're all connected. So when Detour was bought, they created their own podcast company, Frequency Machine, and then contacted me and Andres to host
a show, which we did not want to do.
Wait, why?
When they said you guys should host something, we're like, have you met us though? Funny, because when we did, the cool thing that Detour had was there were these stories that were, they called them GPS assisted. So you used your phone and you walked in the city with the story in your ears.
Cool.
So it would guide you through the city streets, and you'd have these kind of flashes of real life mixing in with the story you were listening to. So for it to work, you needed to test them endlessly.
Yeah.
And both Stacey and the other exec at that time came to Barcelona to test all the stories. So we walked in 7 different neighborhoods basically together over the course of whatever was it? Was it a week?
Yeah.
Wow.
So there we made better friends, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they saw something in both of us.
Something that we didn't see.
Yeah.
Still
That
does.
is so
Still
interesting.
does.
So they brought you on versus like you creating the show. They're like, you're going to do the show. But now that you've done a season, a full season, what is your takeaway from it?
So we made an entire travel series in quarantine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a period of time where I hadn't even met other people on the team in person.
Yeah.
So weird.
Like they were maybe 3 blocks away, and we were still zooming our way through these stories.
But that was honestly, like, it was the most powerful part of making that show.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the trust that the guys put in us to put out a show every week, and a show that's as highly produced as it is. But it was a real feeling of getting out into the world that we knew we couldn't have, and we knew that nobody else had.
Yeah.
I think, well, if you've heard the show, you probably noticed that
We're mental.
Yeah, well,
we have a bit of cabin fever.
It's different to a show like that when anyone can travel than when nobody can travel.
Yeah.
So even for us, it felt kind of almost emotional sometimes, where things were a little more raw, because it felt like it felt more important maybe than if it had been done in normal times.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
100%.
Yeah, and like as you were saying, it's highly produced. Passport Podcast makes you feel like you're literally there. The sounds and the stories, you feel like you just stepped off the plane. That's the feeling I feel like I get from the podcast.
It's really nice to hear that. It's very
sweet.
The highest kind of compliment that we could get. I think because Neil and I come from film, there was a bit of a worry about how you tell stories about other places. And you have this issue as well, which is sometimes when you only have sound, on one hand, you're taking away one of the other senses, but on the other hand, you have this kind of intimacy that you wouldn't have with a TV crew.
Yeah.
You know, you can really sit down like we're doing right now, just chatting. You get to kind of stuff that's under the surface a little bit when you do that.
Yeah, you have to use a whole different part of your imagination to create a story. Because I'm visual. I'm a photographer. I've always been a photographer. I took the test. I'm 80% visual, and somehow I'm doing a podcast as a journalism major too. So it's like, how do I tell a story without visuals? It's difficult. And I'm telling you, y'all's podcast is so well done. What are y'all's favorites off your show? Before I tell you mine.
We have this periodically. We get asked this question within the team.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
And what's hilarious to me is how we always end up kind of debating this, because there's like favorites for different reasons. Yeah. I mean, I love Jerusalem, part 1 and part 2. It's a 2-parter, because that was the one that we were actually able to travel before lockdown.
Because I like first trip, and it was madness.
From my side, you have to realize at that point, the whole idea was that I was not going to know anything about the episode, so I'd come in to listen to them kind of completely clean. So I'd have honest reactions to what was happening. I'd get surprised, whatever. With this one, Neil surprised me about the trip. So he sat me down with a microphone in front of me and was like, we're going on a trip, and we're going to Jerusalem.
And then Des is like, if you do fake kidnappings, I will fucking punish you.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
That was a real special one. It was a very it was a trip that we took, and we kind of didn't quite know what the story was yet.
That's
I don't know how we managed to trick them into letting us go without having a story. And the other thing is that what I love about that episode and listening to it is that you can kind of hear that. We're a little bit awkward. We're a little more NPR. We sound a little more This American Life.
What does it all mean? But I think there's a couple. The Texas SpaceX episode always gets a really good response. But the one from, I think, for both of us that we both go to instantly is because we do this other thing called misinformation, and our Iran episode with our friend Aseel just blew us away.
Yeah.
As we were recording it, we were like, this is so funny and so dangerous. Like, can we do this? But ultimately, it was really it was very sort of moving, and it felt like we had like a big thing.
Yeah, it's so the difference between the really kind of produced episodes is that there's a long period of, there's been pitching ahead of it, there's writing, there's talking things through, sitting down, banter. There's a lot more work. Sometimes it'll be a month and a half for an episode like that.
Wow.
And Misinformation is literally us thinking of a place, finding somebody that is from that place, and then just being really stupid.
The worst, most stereotypical questions you can ask somebody.
But the thing about Iran was, like, Russia and Iran maybe are the two where it feels like you're stepping into territory that can be actually insulting to somebody that's from the place. Scotland, Iceland, these places, Italy, these places, you can be really stereotypical about it, and nobody, is going to get really deeply upset. Iran and Russia, it lets you go into a place that most people have a kind of either a dark idea about it or a lot of misconceptions about it. So when you get into a chat like that, usually, and the reason it works so well, is that both of us end up surprised in the middle of the chat.
Yeah. And foolish.
Yeah.
Completely fooled.
Yeah. I'm also realizing, like, hey, some of these stereotypes have some truth to them, Also realizing like there's a reason stereotypes can be true in a way, but also that's the thing is you are getting like one perspective out of a million. So it's like you could interview a million Russians and get a million different answers. So it's like it's even more fun with that. I loved the misinformation episodes because I'm like, these are like, I like to be honest, and I'm honest on my podcast. Like, I'm ignorant about a lot of stuff. That's why I'm doing it. Let's not be afraid to ask these questions. I really like those episodes.
I've heard you say this thing, which we kind of thought, because I listened to your show too, about this thing of like empathy, like even if you're going to come across as being naive or or stupid or just not knowing or just generally inquisitive, like that's the thing that makes people connect from different places. That's what's the greatest. That's the greatest thing.
Yeah, breaking down that barrier, like it's all about your attitude towards something. Because I grew up in Alabama. I literally grew up very ignorant, specifically towards like Mexican culture, to be honest. And when I moved to Atlanta, I got my ass handed to me I met people from Ethiopia, from Mexico, from anywhere, Iran. I met everyone, and like I was like, wow, like I love learning. But also I learned how to just ask questions and just admit like, hey, I really don't know anything about your country. Can you tell me? And I ended up dating someone Mexican for 3 years. I fell in love with that culture, and it's okay to be ignorant. The point is, do you want to learn? Like, you can't help that you don't know things. So that's why I like the misinformation episode. You're not coming at it with an attitude or a way of like, I'm making fun of you. There's a level of respect, and it's a fine line, but you have to be honest about yourself too when you ask those questions.
Yeah.
Those are cool
Absolutely.
episodes.
And it makes a difference with how you travel. Because I think if you're open, that's when you're going to have an interesting or like an amazing experience in every sense. When I came to Barcelona, I remember early on, I was talking to a Catalan here, right? So this part of Spain is Catalonia. People speak Catalan. And I just casually said, I mean, it's just a dialect of Spanish, right? And
when you woke up later,
I'm still recovering. But it made a difference because the reaction said so much about what that person felt about being from here, what that language meant to them. and it put me in a position where I noticed where I was for the first time somehow.
Yeah.
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 And then it made me curious to know more.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that look, I can still see the look on Sahel's face in that misinformation episode.
The Iran one, yeah.
For calling him Persian.
Yeah. That was early on.
See, wait,
He
can you
was just
explain
like-
that? Can you explain that to those who haven't heard the episode? Why can't...
Yeah.
What's wrong with saying,
I
what's
mean,
wrong with saying that?
he was saying that it's kind of the equivalent of if you're Basque or Catalan or Galician, calling everybody in Spain Castilian.
Okay.
And which...
Well, it's like telling an Irish person, so what's it like being English?
Yeah.
Okay.
British,
Okay.
yeah.
There's
Yeah.
regions.
And he's like, yeah. And Sahel was just like, there is no Persian, we're all Iranian.
Ah.
And then I just kept calling him Persian. I did it like 5 times. I was so embarrassed that I think I couldn't cut most of the show in fear that we would kind of lose him as a friend.
And he did a really
Which
good...
we didn't. I saw him last week.
Was it alright?
Yeah.
So glad.
He's still cool.
That's so funny. Well, I have to say, like, particularly my favorite episode. I mean, I don't know if maybe you get this one a lot, but I got pretty emotional with it. And I don't have any ties with any of this stuff, but the Belfast episode, your first one, one was so good. To those who haven't listened to it, it's about the conflict in Ireland, which is known as the Troubles, and that Game of Thrones has completely rocked their world and changed their entire town and their whole perspective on themselves. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm not really a Game of Thrones person. I have no connection with that show, but the fact that it just rocked these people's world, and that I'm sure that they could see themselves in these characters. That I don't know, a show breaks all those barriers. It's like, oh, I am Jon Snow, and then the person that they thought was their enemy also sees himself as Jon Snow. It's so meta. I love it.
Yeah, it's an amazing episode. It's another one that was produced by Billy Cragen, but he actually got to go to Belfast, and he has connection to it through his family, and he had never been there. So that already kind of put him in a certain frame of mind. And yeah, when you get to, I don't know if it's still the case, but when you get to Belfast Airport, it says, "Welcome to Westeros."
Welcome to Westeros, yeah.
They're just full on. We're like, this is Westeros, y'all.
They went for it.
They went.
But the key was Billy's obsession with Andy, the extra from Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Yeah, from Jeannie Clay's documentary. And so fascinating person.
Exactly. And he's the guy that kind of transmits what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. How fantasy can, transform somebody's life. Which sounds crazy, but it's true. He lived it. He wasn't just an extra.
Yeah.
And he's still Comic-Coning his way around.
Yeah.
And he's recognized everywhere.
I love Jon Snow.
Know me. I loved him when I was a kid, and look at me now defending him. He's amazing. Yeah, I mean, hats off to Billy, who had never been to Belfast. Just turned up at Andy McClay's house one night and just sat with him for 4.5 hours. Just took his whole life story, basically.
It's such a good story. That's my favorite episode. And I do want to get into y'all's travel stories. And before we get into y'all's travel stories, let's take a short break.
Circa is a brand new travel channel. It's filled with shows to help you learn how to travel this amazing world. Our guides are written and hosted by locals, with dedicated episodes about food, music, history, architecture, sports, fashion, and much, much more. Circa is a new immersive way to help you plan the perfect trip. Just search Circa. That's CERCA. New episodes will be released all the time. Circa. Love the world you live in, and we'll help you explore it.
Did you choose one?
I mean, just because it's just popped into my head, I think it's really funny. I was traveling in 2006 with my ex-girlfriend around the States.
Mm-hmm.
And we met one of the weirdest people I've ever met in my life at a KOA Campgrounds of America campsite.
Where?
I think it was in a Dakota. He was driving from Vermont to LA.
Okay.
He was doing that thing where you drive someone else's car for them while they're moving.
Okay.
Oh.
So it was him and his mother driving this car across country.
Is this like a Norman Bates thing?
I mean, it felt a bit weird. He was a tree surgeon.
He was a tree surgeon.
He was a tree surgeon.
Is that a job?
Yeah. And he kept disappearing off into the woods and bringing back like wood for the campfire. And
what does this guy look like? Like, does he look unkempt? Does he look like a mama's boy?
you know that bit, Haley Joel Osment when he got really big and he had a big red beard?
Yes.
He had a big red beard.
Yeah. Lumberjack.
And he started talking about how him and his mum were making wine in Vermont.
Oh.
And he asked me for my address in Australia so he could send us wine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And
were you scared?
he was really nice. He was yelling at his mum a lot. There's a weird relationship thing going on. But when I woke up in the morning, they were gone. And he had left a package outside our tent.
Mm.
And there was a really nice note in it saying, I'm going to send you some wine. Here are all of the CDs from my car that I brought because we didn't have music. He left us his CD collection. He's too well.
That's so personal.
Yeah. And then 3 months later, we did this huge trip around Canada and the States. I got back home. I was living in Australia at the time. And what was waiting for me?
Are you serious? Vermont wine.
Two boxes of 6 bottles.
That's a lot
of wine from Vermont.
Shipping from Vermont to Australia was insane.
So you did give him your address?
I gave him my parents' address because I gave him if anything happens.
He'll just
If anything happens.
I wish I could remember his name, but I don't know that story.
That's kind of amazing.
It just popped in.
It says a lot about Neil. That he would give the guy a real address.
I would do the same thing because I'm like, yes, give me free wine 6 months later. That sounds amazing. And I have your whole CD collection from the 90s. Perfect.
Lumberjack tree surgeon.
It was so great.
Wait, what is his music collection? Like, what is
it?
Yeah.
That was my question, too.
It was good. There was a lot of, like, late 90s hip-hop.
Really?
Yeah.
Surprising.
He had some, like, Modest Mouse records. It was pretty good. Like,
do you think the mom was like, get these out of here?
I think what happened was it was the mum who left this.
Then you can hear him screaming at her. He's like, "Mom, where's my CDs?"
CDs, Mom.
No music.
My Wu-Tang.
This guy's so American. Just like, hey, like here's everything about me, and I'm gonna get your address and send you something I own. Like that's very American.
It is true.
The scary friendliness of Americans.
It's disconcerting if you're not from the States. Yeah, if you're not from the States, at first you're like, what's happening here? Why is this person being so exceedingly nice?
Yeah, they like to talk. They'll talk about anything.
Oh, yeah.
And it's constant.
And
unending.
Yeah, when I go to the north, that's when I become my most Latino, I think. Because if the society, the culture is a little bit uptight and they don't like the noise or volume or anything like that, that's when I get really loud.
Same.
Last time we were in Vienna, it happened. It was the 3 of us. We were there actually on a shoot. 1 Croatian, 1 Spanish guy, and myself. And we pulled our suitcases into a train car, just started talking at what we thought was a normal volume, and we cleared the train car out completely. Like, people fled.
You ruined those people's lives.
That day, they were like, shocked, in like, shock.
Clutching their purses.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I'm like, the more I can sense that you're uptight, I'm like, let me get more in your face. I love that. And Andres, what's your story you have today? I'm so curious. I feel like y'all have a lot of stories.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one you you popped this in my head earlier, and I feel like I kind of have to go there. So,
Oh, shit.
but this was when I was still in Bolivia.
Mm-hmm.
I fell in love with this girl, and pretty soon into me falling in love, she and her, I think her sister, I don't know if it was the whole family, they went to Peru, to Arequipa, which is on the coast. So I decided in, that deeply, very young, right post-adolescent thing, I'm going to go there and I'm going to find her. So I took a bus that was about 24 hours, which is where the term bus ass came from, which is the first experience of the flattening of the ass.
Yeah.
Because the roads are brutal.
Like a pound, just the constant, like, tenderizing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's the thump, tenderizing your ass. So you arrive already slightly crippled into Arequipa. Arequipa is this kind of strange beach town. And I'm going around trying to find this kind of campsite where I knew they were staying, and it was kind of like half hotel, half campsite.
Ooh.
I found it, and when I got there, they had just left, and then I had no more information. So where did they go? No idea. So I was stuck in Arequipa
With bus ass.
Yep, bus ass, no tent, nothing.
Holding a droopy rose.
Yeah. And the owner definitely thought I was like cute or something, so he gave me a tent, let me set it up on the garden. That evening we had some drinks, he had some like food. I had not brought any sun cream, so over the course of the day I just got like redder and redder. By the next day I was, offensively burnt. And he decided to wake me up. I don't know. I feel like it was 6 a.m., but maybe it was like 7, 8 a.m. He's like opening up my tent and like, what's happening? He's like, hey, let's go for a ride. I was like, okay. So we get into this like rickety Jeep, the kind of thing where the whole car makes noise as it's driving. He's driving without really paying attention to the road too much, and he's just telling me about where to find the best prostitutes across all of South America with rating systems. The best are over here, lower rating over here. These are okay, but cheap. Like, and the whole time I'm like, please don't take me to a whorehouse.
Where are we going?
First of all, it's 6 a.m.
Yeah, it's very early. So I was like, I'm guessing this is not a prostitution situation. So we arrive to this kind of oddly shaped building. He parks the Jeep. There's nobody there. And as we walk into the space, I just noticed that there's hundreds of cages filled with roosters. And I realize as we reach the end, this is like a cockfighting kind of arena. And he's like, we're going to train some cocks today. And I'm like, okay.
And you're like, oh, thank God. Thank God.
Thank God it's that kind of cock. He pulls out what was like one of his prize fighters, which is a rooster that's missing an eye and messed up. And he's like, here, hold this. Just hands me this rooster. And the thing about like fighting cocks is that they shake. They tremble because they're always kind of like gearing up for a fight. So I had this like little vibrator in my arms, and then other people start showing up, and I'm holding this thing, it's shaking. They all start looking at me and laughing because I'm burnt red from like, too long. And then they proceed to do this kind of like training thing between two roosters. They put these rubber boxing gloves on them, and then they have to beat each other up. And the whole thing just went on forever. People starting to drink. And I'm like, first, how did I get here? Second, how do I get out of this? So by the time we got back to the place,
will I ever find love again?
Exactly. So post this situation, we come back to the place where I'm staying. I'm going to basically just go back to Bolivia on another 24-hour bus. And as we get there, the girl and her family have arrived like on their way back. And they just, the first image she sees of me is this like dirty, burnt Bolivian boy who's just in a cockfighting arena. And she was just like, what are you doing here?
Oh.
All of the romance just sucked out of the air. I mean, originally it was meant to be really nice, but I don't know anymore.
I think I might have found my calling.
So yeah, that was something.
She's like, what happened to you?
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
her, like you think
How
about
do you
her
explain it?
perspective. She's on a nice trip with her family. And then like her like lover shows up like dirty, beat red. I would love to see like two stories, like a film, your film,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
just like her perspective
Yeah.
on you.
Yeah, just like a really nice vacation.
Just
You stayed at a certain place, then came back, and then you find this guy that smells like dirty cockfighting roosters.
R-rated.
It's amazing. Oh god, I do want to go to Peru though. Like I've heard amazing things about it besides like the cockfighting and like
It was incredible.
the sun.
Peru and Bolivia are both incredible. We're like, I would say, brother or cousins, maybe, I guess. Peru has the whole coast, so that makes it really special. Obviously, you have the mountain stuff, the Cuscos, but then you have these kind of hidden gems and even bits of tropic that are incredible. The food is insane.
That's what I've heard. I haven't had it yet. I'm very fresh to Latin America. Like I want to go next year really badly. How like accessible is it in your perspective? I know you're men, but how accessible is it for women backpacking? What's your perspective, do you think?
So all of Latin America, certain places are a little bit tricky, a little bit dangerous. Bolivia is one of the places that I can say is actually one of the safest on the mountain side.
Okay.
Not so much on the Brazil side, the tropics and the kind of lower sea level places. There's a lot more drug trafficking and that kind of thing.
Okay.
But on the mountain side, the Altiplano, the highlands, it's really, really safe and really nice.
Okay.
And people are used to travelers.
Okay.
And there's not enough oxygen for anybody to get that violent.
No, even the flies are.
Everyone's just like,
everyone's too tired.
you came.
Really nice. Like even Lima, which is this huge city, because it's such a huge city, it just depends where you are. So the main thing is always like talk to people. Yeah. Find out where things are happening at the time. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, cool. Because I'm trying to go next year because I've fallen in love with like specifically Latin American music. My entire discography is like Latin American rock, like Latin music that's coming from Colombia, Mexico, and Argentina. And the music scene, that's where I really want to go to Latin America. Like all these bands I'm finding, I'm like, this is incredible. A lot of tribal kind of music coming out of these places. It's pretty cool.
Really good, like mixing electronic with the kind of the flavor of the place.
Yes.
There's this, I think they're Peruvian. They're called dengue, dengue, dengue. That make these kind of like insane. It's almost side trancey, but it's special, man.
I like
it's
that.
Really good. Yeah, that's what I recommended for the Peru episode that we did, the UFO.
Yeah,
one.
I remember. And was it that Peruvian rock, punk band?
Oh man,
They're insanely good.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of really good music.
You got to go for the golden. We used to call it the Golden Triangle. It's like any place in at this particular time. If you can go from like 1968 to 1973, just find as much music from that period as you can, because chances are, even if it's shit, it's being recorded really well. Especially, Africa, Latin American music.
Yes.
There's a lot of amazing stuff. Real nasty sounding, great, sweaty music.
Sweaty.
Yeah, the legend is that punk was born in Peru 10 to 15 years before it got to the UK. Basically.
I believe it.
There's this one band, these guys just that wear suits with a tie, but were playing punk without knowing what it was.
Yeah. They were like, we were punk?
We were punk. We were just angry. Yeah, I definitely want to hear more stories from y'all. But I do want to wrap it up with talking about Circa, because you talked about Circa and we talked about Detour, but Circa is the new app for Frequency Machine. Like, what's it to y'all? Like, I've already explored the app and it's really cool, but like, I'll explain Circa to everyone.
Yeah, I mean, Circa at its core, I think it's like a one-stop shop for that idea of traveling with locals.
Yes.
Is the kind of like philosophy behind it. It's like we all want to have somebody in the place where we're going to because they know, they have a look into the city in a way that we don't have.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that each of the places that are in the Circa app have that. Barcelona, London, Mexico City, Paris.
Yeah, Rome, London, Hawaii, Iceland. So our writers are all from those places. And, you know, we don't want people to skip over doing the big things. Like, you're not going to go to Rome and not go to the Colosseum, but...
Yeah. When I went to Barcelona, I didn't see the La Sagrada Familia.
Well,
I was like inches from it, and I was like, no. I don't know. I'm a dumbass. Like, I actually truly regret it. And I was like, no, I'm not going to be a tourist. And like, every time I talk to someone, they're like, you didn't see it? I'm like, oh my God. I heard it's incredible. I was literally down the street. So yeah, go see the big stuff. But let's say you don't know a local. You don't always know a local. But here's an app. You go on there and then you have all these stories. But then what I like is that there's pinpoints. So I can like, well, what is he talking about? I don't have to like get off the app, try to search it off myself. It's like, boom, there it is. So
exactly.
We've got notes, photographs, and a map location for each chapter. So you can just look at food. You can just look at see and do. You can just look at places to stay. We're just hoping that it kind of changes people's way of, like learning as much about a place as possible, but still not being really rigid about what they want to do on the trip, and just giving them a bit of freedom.
Exactly. You can get a flavor of a place, so you get that sense of what maybe you might want to do, and if you remember something specific, you can find it.
Yeah, you can build your Barcelona playlist.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very nice
for places.
It's kind of when we started talking about Detour, and we talked about Passport, and it's kind of the learning curve of both those things ends up turning into Circa.
Very, very true. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, it's all inclusive. I could hear from locals. I'm like, these are people who live here. They know where to eat. They know where to go. And I like how it's historical too, because I like history when I go somewhere. So yeah, I mean, definitely. So the app is called Cerca, so it's CERCA, and it's very easy to find. It was like, you just look it up. It's like right there. But yeah, I know you have another season coming up, season 2.
Yes, we have so many things kind of cooking at the same time. Mm-hmm. The main thing is to keep an eye open. Yeah, because there's things coming.
I mean, I'm gonna make something when I'm in Perth, where we've got misinformations coming on New Zealand.
There's stories that are from amazing places like Turkey.
There is we're looking at doing a Nollywood and story about the Nigerian film industry.
Yeah, so I'll leave all the direct links to your show and to Circa, so it's like really easy for people to like check both these things out. I'm super excited for season 2. I pretty much ran through season 1. But yeah, I really hope you'll come on again, because I want to pick all your brains about your travel stories. I scratched the surface and I want more. So
come back anytime.
Yes, perfect. But yeah, that wraps up this week's Travel Stories episode. And cheers, y'all.
It was awesome. It was lovely. I really appreciate you guys.